doesn't really apply anymore. So we have to reposition. But one thing we did, and we're still very proud of it, is this ROLLUP as a service. So anyone can click a button and create a ROLLUP using the same stack, and everything will be automatically set up using some cloud technologies, and you will be able to use and have your own ROLLUP at a one button click. And then we released Andromeda mainnet. That's September 2 years ago. Is it 1 year ago? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. 2 years ago now. So in Andromeda, we actually revamped the gas calculation. The gas calculation in Andromeda is actually the very accurate one, so you don't have to worry about L1 gas fees, because it's all included in the gas calculation. We also revamped how the timestamp has been generated in the blocks, so a lot of gaming protocols really welcome this particular change. And then we have the chain manager, where we can actually allow the chain manager to change the configuration of the rollup chain. And then we have the peer node support to really improve the availability and the scalability of the rollup service. And there are a lot more. And most important thing, because we kind of mentioned, the 2.0 stack doesn't have the fraud proof, and still doesn't have it now, but very soon we'll have it. But we have this validator node actually verifying the validity of the executions of the sequencers. And we have a community validator program. Over 100 nodes are validating our rollup services every day and every hour. But then we move on to the next big breakthrough, that's the smart L2 technology, which is quite controversial, to be honest, but it is needed, and we'll see why. So the smart L2 is based on the optimistic data availability using MonoLab as the decentralized storage. It means that we only upload the full transaction data when it's necessary. And the data request mechanism is partially implemented, mostly because now we all know Bedrock from Autism is coming. So as soon as we know that, say, you know what, everything will be changed dramatically again. That's why we stopped implementing the rest of the data request mechanism. But however, the security of the chain is still ensured by full transparency and community support. Next one, please. So next one. At this point, I've always arguing, hey, why do Metis need a white paper? At this point, everything that we wrote in the initial white paper has been tossed into the garbage bin, almost. But the vision that Metis wants to build a Web3 economy hasn't changed. So we have some exciting stuff in the pipeline from Metis. Next slide, please. So far we have focusing on the speed, cost, and the speed and cost. And that will help the producers, and that will help the DeFi protocols. But next, in the pipeline, we have something new, exciting to offer. Next one, please. First, we're going to migrate over to Optimus Bedrock stack. And this one is important because it helps the scalability and availability a lot. It separates the sequencer and proposers. So a lot of things we are doing right now is to make sure that it's compatible with smart L2 technology. And it's very important. And I will say very soon why is it. And then in the next updates, we're going to introduce this MPC-based decentralized sequencer, so that we no longer have one single sequencer to deal with all the transactions for the L2. And we'll have this promotion from peer nodes to sequencer nodes, so that in the future, even if we have to do a maintenance or upgrade or bug fixes, the whole network will continue to run. So there will be no downtime going forward after this big update. So there are a lot of things, because I really want to make sure that we cover the most important part, which is the rightmost column. I'm happy to, I know there are a lot of rumors about Metis working on ZK, and I believe there's someone dig our repo and found some documents about our ZK researchers. And I'm happy to say, yes, it is true. We are working on ZK implementations, and we're happy to announce we are working on a special rollup category called hybrid rollup. So how it works, next slide, please. How it works. So a user will submit the transactions, and through a complicated networking, eventually it will reach the sequencer node. And this sequencer node will produce the block, and the proposer will submit the states and the transactions. Everything looks normal as an optimistic rollup. But then, the provers, those provers, what we call rangers in our white paper, they will download the download transactions, produce the blocks, and using the same technology that Optimism used in a Canon project for their Bedrock to produce a program based on MIPS instruction. And this MIPS instruction will be fed into our circuit to produce the ZK proof, and then will be submitted to L1. And when the proof is submitted and accepted, the batch of this particular batch of transactions will be marked as final. So that the people no longer need to wait for the full 7 days to finish a withdrawal, for example, or to do a cross-chain operations among other L2 chains. And this is very exciting. At the same time, it's hybrid because we still need a fraud-proof system. So if the prover is not able to produce the proof because sequencer is doing something fraudulent, and then they will need to rely on the fraud proof to slash the sequencer. And there's a pros and cons. First, the pros, very, very obvious. We have the best of both worlds. Fast confirmation time, because as soon as the transaction be submitted to L1, it's confirmed. And also a very fast finalization. As soon as the proof has been submitted, usually it takes hours, but much better than the 7 days. But there's a con, because we still need to upload the full transaction information. The data availability cost is much higher than the other ZK rollups. However, because Smart L2, this cost can almost be neglected. There's one weakness in Smart L2 is that the 7 days is actually not enough, not long enough for Smart L2 to fully secure the network. But with the introduction of the ZK proof, the fraud proof window can actually be expanded to 14 days or even 30 days so that there's enough time for people to challenge both the data availability, also the states that have been submitted by the sequencer. But really, if we have a 4844 today, we don't have to deal with this complicated mechanism. So hopefully we'll see 4844 implemented this year or next year. We'll see. So why do we use Stark in our ZK prover? So a lot of reasons. And actually, recently I noticed that at ZK EVM from Polygon, they also announced their mainnet launch, and they also use Stark as the fraud-proof generation. Because the Stark, one of the weakness of Stark is that the proof size is very big, but now with the recursive proofs, it's no longer a big problem anymore. But it's quantum safer. So when quantum computer becomes a thing, probably in a decade or two, Stark is still much safer than the other mechanism. So our vision using ZK MIPS is to have Ethereum as the ZKP foundation layer. What I mean by that is this particular technology, because the universal usage of MIPS and the stability of MIPS, can I have the next slide, please? It almost can be used by anyone, not just Ethereum, not just Metis. For example, you can have Solana compile that VM into MIPS, and they will be able to settle a ZKP on Ethereum. So we are extremely excited about this, and also very, very pleased to say this whole ZK MIPS research is completely open source. What I mean by completely open source is even including the internal discussions are open sourced on our Git repo. So so if you're interested, please go to our Git repo on Metis and find the ZKP repo, and you can find all the discussions that we have and current research statements, current directions, and a lot of background information, how ZK works. Everything is there. So we have covered the liquidity because the withdrawal window is much shorter. We have covered the security costs and peak costs, but we haven't touched the producer and consumers. So let's move on that. So for value producers, the productivity is something that we haven't really talked about. So we're happy to introduce Chorus. Chorus is a Metis-founded startup. It's part of the EcoNode. What they do is to run your DAO like a business. So it's the first OS system where set the framework how you can run your operations on-chain. So we have DAOs, but DAO has some problems. So DAO is very easy to start, but very hard to maintain and very hard to operate. A lot of centralization actually eventually happens even within a DAO framework. So it's very hard to encourage the collaboration within DAOs and across DAOs, and that's something we want to really solve. Next one, please. So here, the decentralized autonomous company, although a different name, we aim to solve a couple of problems. First, we want to maintain the easy to start, but we also want to make sure the DAO and DAG can be easily maintained going forward as time goes by. And we allow the collaboration between DAGs and within the DAGs effectively. And so that we want to introduce this end-to-end cohesive user experience and allow the companies to operate on-chain. Next one, please. So current offering, we have the treasury management, and we have the member management so that they can have roles and permissions within the DAC. And we also have the voting governance in place already, and a very, very very effective task management system so that the DACs within their members can actually take on works and work on the operations. And in the future, we have the tax payroll management, permission, contribution marketplace, credential system, and document manager. So absolutely check out chorus.io to see what they are offering. So the next part is actually also very important. It's the consumer. That's the one that's going to spend their money and spend their resources in the ecosystem. So happy to introduce Nuvo, which is another eco-node of Metis ecosystem. Nuvo is a decentralized credential platform and allows people to own their own data, own their own credential. It works with both Web2 and Web3, online and offline, and also have this gamification component where they can feel the sense of achievement while interacting with different applications. Absolutely scan the QR code over there to get your new credential, and you will be amazed how easy the experience is. And imagine that is the Web2. So anyone that hasn't been touched the Web3 experience at all, trying the first application in Web3, this is the experience they will get. And why Nuvo works is the engagement framework is actually very important for all communities. The community stickiness, community acquisition are very important, and Nuvo does provide a framework, allows that, and people can carry around the reputations around. And the users, they can actually get incentives by participating in those activities and share the data regarding their interactions with the application. So with both sides have the demand, we believe this will have a very good traction in the market. And how it works is this particular diagram. I don't have too much time to cover all of that, but the key is this proprietary, I won't say proprietary, but it will be open source anyways, okay. But it's a unique key exchange mechanism where each interaction of user and a new pair of application will generate 2 pairs of keys where they can share the data in private and securely on blockchain. And the data share also use the same mechanism where they can target which to share and who to share to. And in the Nuvo suite, we have 3 products. Nuvo 1 is the development platform, and I highly encourage everyone to try. It is actually very easy to integrate this whole Web3 technology into Web2 application. I've already challenged a couple developers. They can easily using Nuvo with their existing Web2 application, using the same OAuth2 authentication mechanism. And Nuvo Me is the state-of-the-art cross-chain and online-offline credential system. It's both a wallet, it's also a SSI DID credential wallet. So a lot of exciting stuff happening. And the Nuvo Pass is a nice platform where people do not want to code, and they can also utilize the badge system to incentivize people's motivation. Next one. So now we have covered all 3 components, and we're very excited to be the one that leading the building of Web3 economy. And if you're an investor or developers, feel free to join the booth, 599, and we can have more chats. Thank you very much.